for joining us. We're very privileged to have you. Could you just recap for us what you spoke about today?
Yes, so the sort of stuff I was talking about today was essentially what Australia is thinking in terms of lead-in fighter training. So specifically that piece of training before they get to the operational conversion unit. And essentially really just saying what we've observed over the last 15 years and where that's necessarily driving our thought processes going forward.
And in terms of where that practical progress has led, given that we've had a lot of interest at the event so far in terms of training, what can you perhaps provide insight to in terms of what's really making a difference?
Well, what is a major focus for us is what we're calling contextually relevant cognitive development. So working on expanding the cognitive capacity of the student as they're passing through that training. That's the biggest piece for us. And
presumably cost is a factor in all walks of life, but for training specifically for this particular project, are you having to think more flexibly?
Absolutely. So yes, we are not only having to think flexibly, but also in terms of the system, but also what that actually does to our whole training continuum and also to our curriculum. So yes, cost is definitely an option, and as most people have been talking about today, it's about trying to not only drive the cost down, but to really make some inroads there, because flying fighters is an extremely costly endeavour, and the training for it is also extremely costly.
In that sense, given that International Fighter is obviously a multinational conference, what benefit have you found from hearing from other perspectives, from other nations, and obviously the challenges that they're facing with their own programs?
Yeah, it's certainly apparent that we're not the only ones that are really striving to be cost conscious and also striving to make sure that we're generating the greatest product that we can before they go into their operational conversion units. We're all struggling, I suppose, the world is struggling with what do we need to train for the next generation of fighter aircraft, frontline fighter aircraft that are coming along. And so there's definitely a lot of soul searching that's going on, not just in Australia, but certainly it's evident that it's going on everywhere else as well.
And has anything particularly surprised you about the discussions today, or has there been anything that you've made particularly frantic notes on during the time here?
Actually, yeah, I guess there's been certainly some very interesting perspective on not only what's happening in Brazil, which has been very interesting, but also what's happening with the US as well. So what the US is starting to think about and where they're necessarily looking at they're looking at big changes as well, and it's not necessarily all just focused on 5th gen fighters as well. So they're starting to take into account other pieces that are floating around in the mix there.
And how will that feedback sort of work for your program, for what you're doing at the moment? How will that entwine and actually come out with a tangible benefit for you?
Right. Well, what it does is it certainly changes, or it can have an impact on what we train. So as we're taking our students through that training pipeline, getting them ready for operational conversion unit, it's a lot of the input that we pick up from today can affect the content of that curriculum and that syllabus.
And just finally, given that training is the focus for you specifically, if we have this conference in 5 or 10 years' time, is it likely that we'll be talking about trainers, or are we at that stage going to be much more in the live, the virtual, the constructive, and the simulated?
All of that stuff's still going to, it's certainly going to be around, and it's going to take a front foot. So, there's going to be more focus on that. But we're definitely, I think we're going to be in the game of trainers, as in aircraft, flying training for quite a while yet.